Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric, and I'm continuing the series, the Unported playlist, where I take a look at some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And today we're taking a look at Zero Gunner, released on the Sega Model 2 hardware by Psiyko. And it's really interesting this game was never ported because Zero Gunner 2 came to the Dreamcast and has been ported to the PC and Switch now, but for some reason Zero Gunner has just never come home. It's always been locked to the Model 2 hardware. Before we get too far involved though, if you do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down there as well. But Zero Gunner is an absolutely outstanding shmup, and it plays a little bit differently than most shmups, because even though it is a vertical shmup, the way you move around the screen is completely different, because you'll see right there, there's a lock-on mechanic, and when you lock onto a ship, it doesn't matter what direction you move in the screen, you're always going to be shooting at that ship, and as you go left and right, your helicopter likes to pivot, so honestly you're changing your hitbox around a lot as you play the game, which mechanically is really interesting but can also up the difficulty of it as well. And honestly, if this game reminds me of anything, and it's a really strange comparison, there's a video on my channel, I'll link it down below, and that is Tobey Polystars, because it has that same 3D vertical shmup feel to it, where your ship can go in and out of the screen and navigate in ways that aren't usually familiar to you in a shmup. But as far as shmups are concerned, I absolutely love Zero Gunner. It's a huge bummer that this is never ported home, because I definitely could see this running on the Saturn, or when Zero Gunner 2 came out on the Dreamcast, they could have put it on the disc as well. But unfortunately, this is one of the best shmups that I feel like it's just locked to arcades completely. Although the Model 2 emulator does exist and it runs the game perfectly fine, you can get this game from Model 2 as well. It's not the cheapest game, but you can definitely still find it relatively easily. Almost all the Model 2 games are things that you can find on eBay with just a quick search if you feel like paying the money. But I love the boss battles as well. You'll see I've locked on here, and we can do full 360-degree rotations around the ship while still aiming at it. And I forgot that that enemy had that power-up burst there, and I took my first death. But this game is difficult. It's not the easiest shmup in the world. It's not the hardest. It's probably like a 7 out of 10 as far as difficulty is concerned, in my opinion. Now, if you play shmups all the time, maybe it'll feel easier to you. But when this game is, giving you those intense bullet patterns, there's going to be a lot of stuff flying around the screen. Some enemies are going to give you very pattern-based bullet patterns. They're going to be spaced out evenly. Some of the smaller enemies are just going to start throwing projectiles around the screen wherever they feel like. So you're definitely going to have to navigate and move around a ton. You always want to be moving in this game to make sure that you don't get hit. But I've always loved the graphics of Model 2, and going through the city here in Tokyo, it just looks so spectacular. You have those neon signs down below, and I think it was actually China. We're going through the Great Wall here. It's constantly changing up the graphical style and giving you something new to look at. And you'll see that I did use that bomb there, which is in traditional shmup fashion, your escape when you know you're going to be getting hit, because it will clear all the bullets off the screen for you. But all the boss battles are really fun and varied. Sometimes you're just fighting another attack helicopter, but here we have this giant, mechanized tank that's running along the Great Wall, and we have different areas that we need to destroy and aim at. And if you don't have a lock-on, you do need to be patient and navigate around the ship, because you can only get that lock-on by pointing at it, and then you can move anywhere you want. But sometimes you need to be patient and just let the game progress until you get to a position where you're actually able to lock onto your boss and shoot them from there. But I love all the sweeping camera movements and everything about this game. It kind of feels like the shmup version of, LA Machine Guns or something like that. The camera's constantly going back and forth. It's giving you new things to look at. And it's really graphically nice, especially for a Model 2 game, because it's moving at a full 60 frames a second. There's tons of different enemy ships and projectiles on the screen at once. And this game never once slowed down. So it's something that you could just download, load up in the Model 2 emulator, and play super easily. And that's what I love about all of these Model 2 games, that they emulate perfectly. And this is what I remember 3D being in the arcades back in the early 90s. I played all of these Model 2 games, and I absolutely fell in love with each and every one of them. And when the Sega Saturn was announced, I really thought we were just going to be getting Model 2 at home. Obviously that's not how it worked out, but this to me still looks incredible. I just love the appearance of Model 2 graphics. It's some of the best vintage 3D arcade hardware around, and all of the games on the platform are awesome. And you'll see here we moved on to another boss, and each boss has its own attack pattern and own strategy. They move up and down into the screen, they move up and down around in the stage, and you really need to learn how to read those patterns. You can clearly see there, I didn't do a very good job of it. But like every shmup, there's a lot of memorization, and you have to keep playing this game to get better at it and to understand what different patterns you're going to be seeing, because I'm really good at the spaced out kind of geometric bullet patterns, but when the bullets just come randomly, that's when my brain freezes up a little bit and I get a little bit worse at the game. But of course, that's something that I could just learn through continually playing it. And each mission is quite long. This game felt like it should have been ported home, because we're still on the Asia mission, and there's 5 missions per stage, and there's 4 stages in the game. So actually seeing the entirety of this game is going to take you probably 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how good you are. So it always felt like it had the ability to get ported home. I mean, you could have gotten a port of this on the Saturn. It wouldn't have been graphically as nice, but it definitely would have been something fun to play. Or it could have been popped on the Dreamcast as well. But to date, as I'm recording this, Zero Gunner has never been brought home. But Zero Gunner 2, the sequel, which is also an awesome game, is basically available on any platform you could possibly imagine. And that's just a huge bummer. And you'll see here as we get further on, we're into these rice paddies or agricultural fields. And I just love that each individual stage changes up the graphical stylings. You know, we're going through downtown China at night, and there's all sorts of neon. And we're going over the Great Wall at the nighttime. And now here we are in the full daylight fighting over a field with these dump trucks below. There's so much different things to look at while you're playing the game, this industrial area. It is just a ton of fun. What I'll let you do is listen to the music in the boss fight, because it's quite good, and I'll come back in about 30 to 45 seconds and talk more about what Zero Gunner has to offer, because this is just a taste of the entire game. But enjoy this next little bit of music, and I'll be right back. The music is just exactly like what you would expect it to be for a game that has this much going on. It's dramatic, the music's swelling, there's a lot of bass involved. It has that action movie feel to it. And I love that the multi-stage boss in the end of Asia just keeps changing. First you're fighting what looks like an oil rig in the middle of the ocean, and at the very end this attack helicopter just shoots out, and he actually is the final boss of the area, and the bullets are coming fast from every different direction, and you really need to be on top of your game to avoid them. Clearly I wasn't doing a very good job of that right now. But you do need to utilize those bombs. There's enough strategy there where if you do get stuck, you just blow off a bomb and you're able to give yourself a little bit more life. And you'll see here we've completed the first area in the game. All missions are clear. But the great part about this game is there's 4 different missions. So we've only shown you the first of 4. And that's why I love this game so much, because it really does feel like a console game that just didn't happen to come home. So we're going to move right on to a different area just to give you a little taste. And I will put a long play up of half the game. I didn't play the full thing for the capture. We're going to move to the USA and start in New York. And all of a sudden, the game is not completely different. It's still the same game. It's still a shmup, but you're getting different areas at different times of day. You're going to start seeing a couple different new enemies. And that's what's really fun, is that this game has a lot of depth to it. And there is a lot of longevity in the game, because it takes practically an hour to see the entire thing. And I just love that, because a lot of shmups are usually over in 25 to 30 minutes. And now we're moving on to Chicago, where I live, and I will say that it looks nothing like Chicago. Some of the buildings look slightly familiar, but we definitely don't have a 12-lane highway going down the middle of downtown. So if you live in some of the cities this game shows you, you're definitely going to know that they're not accurate, but it's always fun to see Chicago put into a video game. But yeah, that is Zero Gunner. It's an absolutely amazing shmup. It's a ton of fun. Psiyko always made great shmups, and we'll be showing another one of their shmups coming up on the channel soon for Unported playlist. But it's just a huge bummer this never got brought home. And it's always weird when there's a franchise of games and one of them is missing from a home release, because like I said, Zero Gunner 2 is available on anything. You can buy it on the Dreamcast, you can get it on the Switch, you can get it on PC. If you've never played any of these games, I highly recommend you pick that up and check it out. But it's always weird when the first game in a series just just ends up getting locked to arcades and never being brought home. But yeah, that's Zero Gunner. Leave me a question or a comment down below if you played it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you know where there's an arcade with a cabinet still, definitely tell me. I'd love hearing about that. But I will be back next Sunday, another episode in the Unported playlist. I'll have videos throughout next week as well. But do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and hit notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And like I said, if you've never played Zero Gunner, I 100% recommend it. It's one of my favorite 3D shmups of all time. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.